have seen some eyebrow-raising moves the last 48 hours in the NFL world. Jalen Ramsey, Minkah Fitzpatrick swapping places between Miami and Pittsburgh. Darren Waller coming out of retirement to go play for the Dolphins, which means Kyle Pitts not going to Miami. So sigh of relief for Falcons fans that want to see Pitts in ATL still. So safe to say right now that even on July 1st, no move can be completely disregarded because we've seen two unexpected, out of this universe moves that no one saw coming. So what's one more? And I've seen some chatter among Steelers fans that this recent acquisition of Jalen Ramsey and his contract may not be good news for TJ Watt getting an extension. TJ Watt is entering the final year, I think, or maybe 2 years left on his contract. And he's not amongst the highest paid pass rushers in football anymore. So he's looking for a brand spanking new deal. And it's understandable. He's very, very good. He's very accomplished. He's got great accolades and great stats over the past couple of seasons. So it's warranted for him to want a new contract. He saw what Myles Garrett got from the rival Cleveland Browns. And he wants something in that neighborhood. And he's not really near that number right now. So here's why I'm bringing this all up and why it could be important to Falcons fans. An Adam Schefter tweet came out yesterday, and I want to read it to you guys, and I'll put it on screen. Sources. In recent weeks, multiple teams have been discussing whether they can trade for Steelers standout TJ Watt, who skipped the team's most recent minicamp. Pittsburgh hasn't shown any willingness to deal Watt so far, but he's unhappy with his contractual situation, and sources believe outside team interest is likely to increase given today's trade. Before I bring the Falcons into this, let me talk about what this tweet means in more plain English. And in order to do that, I think I have to take a step back and first explain the way agents and reporters interact with one another. Agents give information to reporters to put out on the players, their clients' behalf. And in exchange for this tweet from Adam Schefter, down the road, this agent will give information to Schefter. Like, my player is requesting a trade. My player is signing with this team. That's the give and take that agents and reporters have. Think of the reporter in the middle. And then to the right of the reporter, you have the team, the GM. And the GM and the agent will swap information because the GM is looking for info from the team, from the agent. So the reporter in the middle will pass things over to the GM about what the agent said to them in exchange for information from the GM. So now that we have just a baseline understanding of what this relationship looks like, because Schefter is saying sources. Well, think, for yourself for a second. Would this source be the Pittsburgh Steelers? Highly unlikely, right? Why would the Steelers want to try and trade away TJ Watt by putting out this feeler that he could be available for trade? It's coming from the agent to put some pressure on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they are using Adam Schefter's platform to broadcast that. So with that knowledge now, let's look back at what Schefter said. In recent weeks, multiple teams have been discussing whether they can trade for Steelers standout TJ Watt, who skipped the team's most recent minicamp. Pittsburgh hasn't shown any willingness to deal Watt so far, but he's unhappy with his contractual situation, and sources believe outside team interest is likely to increase given today's trade. I interpret that as, sorry for my clock going off, I interpret that as TJ Watt's agent is using Schefter to inform the team that they are pissed about this Jalen Ramsey trade, not because of the player they're acquiring, but because of the contract they are acquiring, and how that makes it much more difficult to give Watt a huge extension. Because part of their money is now going to Ramsey. So as a result, as a retaliation to this move right here, Watt's agent wants other teams to know that there has been trade interest for TJ Watt. That may or may not be true. But if you're Terry Fontenot and you're sitting at your breakfast table and you're reading the paper and you're scrolling through your phone and you see that there's been team interest and it's going to increase for TJ Watt, you might look at that and go, I didn't even know he was really available. But here's Schefter telling me that there's been some interest recently and it's going to increase. Well, let me give the Steelers a call right now. I'm sure Fontenot doesn't need a Schefter tweet to get to that conclusion, but it does move things along a little bit for some GMs out there to go, ooh, there might be something brewing here. I'm going to give Omar Khan, the Pittsburgh Steelers general manager, a call and ask him, well, since you just acquired Jalen Ramsey, it doesn't seem like you have the money now for a TJ Watt extension. Can we discuss a trade? I think this Schefter tweet just helps push people along a little bit. And that's something that Watt could be searching for because he's not getting the contract he is looking for out of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now let's bring Atlanta into the mix here. Could the Falcons be a team that picks up the phone and says, listen, we can do simple math here and you're running out of dollars and cap space for your own players after acquiring Ramsey. We'd like to pursue a Watt trade with you. I don't think that's likely. I don't think after drafting James Pierce and Jalen Walker, the Atlanta Falcons, without a first-round pick in next year's draft, are going to be able to make a compelling offer or even an offer they're interested in for Watt services. Like, Atlanta's kind of in a weird spot right now. Is TJ Watt incredible? Yes, he is. Would he be a great fit for the Atlanta Falcons? Absolutely. Do the Falcons really want to bring someone in that's going to take all the snaps and kind of put a hard ceiling on the development of two guys they just took in the first round? Unlikely. I think Fontenot and Morris just made two big gambles with first-round picks on James Pierce from Tennessee and Jalen Walker from UGA that they'd like to see pan out a little bit before just stuffing their development because the superstar TJ Watt is here, which would be great, and he'd be great. And so maybe you could stop the conversation right there and go, stop overthinking this. He's a defensive player of the year. To hell with the former first-round draft pick who's unproven. Take the known commodity. Or the Falcons could say, hey, Watt was a late first-round draft pick. Not too far off from where we got James Pierce. Jalen Walker, a mid-first-round draft pick. Both are on cheap rookie contracts. Let's see how our younger, injury-free, cheaper options play out before moving on to a guy who's approaching 30, doesn't have as much gas left in the tank, who's had some injuries in his career, but is a known thing. My money is on the Falcons are going to want to stick by Pierce and Walker. The only path I see for that changing is if Fontenot goes, I feel like my time in Atlanta as the GM is coming to a close if we don't put together not just a winning season, a playoff winning season. Going 9-8, getting the 4 seed, winning the NFC South, and losing in the first round of the playoffs by 2 touchdowns is not enough to keep my job. And I think that TJ Watt's going to help me avoid that. So what if the Falcons called the Steelers and said, we'll give you James Pierce for Watt, and we'll give you some draft picks too? I personally, you're getting TJ Watt, right? James Pierce may turn out to be another Tack McKinley or Vic Beasley, a nothing burger. I don't think that's very likely, so I'm not going to get too in bed with that possibility, but it would be something you'd have to consider. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's video. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see everyone later.